CentralFloridaPolitics.com, where Central Florida turns for political news.
It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to have this introduction. I was watching TV the other evening, and as I was flipping through the channels, I ran across MSNBC, which is not on my favorite channel list. But I saw Keith Olbermann on there, and Keith Olbermann, you may remember, used to be on ESPN, and he was rather fanciful there, but then you're talking sports, so it really doesn't have to be anything to your argument. Well, I watched him, and I watched him bash the character of Republican elected officials like Governor Sarah Palin, like President George Bush, like the chairman of the Republican Party, Michael Steele. Now, he attacked their character, he attacked their family, and yet he made no mention about the merit or substance of their argument. And ladies and gentlemen, when you attack the personal character of somebody, it becomes the last sanctuary of a bankrupt argument. Now, the reason I tell you that is because some of you all may have heard that Marco and I have had strained relations in the past. That even though we served together, we might have been on opposite sides and might have led to some consequences. Some of you all have approached me about it as though you were approaching me about an ex-wife, which, by the way, my wife of 26 years is here. I do not have an ex-wife.
Get it clear.
But the reason I share this with you is because, as Republicans, we believe in the substance of our argument because it has been proven to be correct. And as a Republican, even though then Speaker Rubio and I had differences, at no time did we ever attack each other's character. At no time did we ever pursue a path of vindictiveness against each other. At no time did we try to undermine each other's plans or legislation. In fact, I think it was a shining example of what our party can do when two people differ but stay focused on the objective to serve the people the best they can. Ronald Reagan once said that the greatest leaders are not the ones that do great things. The greatest leaders are the ones that get people to do great things. And I will tell you the rest of the story, as in the words of the late Paul Harvey, that the rest of the story for me politically was in 2008, I was approached by then Speaker Rubio to lead and negotiate the property insurance package that was passed that year. And here was a man who had seen political differences with me, but we mended our principal differences. We went out there, and with his help and with his unfettered delegation of authority on this issue, I was able to pass a bill out of the Florida House of Representatives unanimously on an issue that 18 months ago I was not on the right side, well, not on the majority side. And I share this with you because that's a character. That's a character that this party, may I say that this state, may I say that this country needs in their leadership. Because that is the measure of a man. Even though I went to the University of Florida, Marco has continued to be a very good friend, a stalwart of the conservative movement in the state of Florida, and by far to be one of the greatest leaders that we have for the conservative movement and for the state. And it was with great honor and great pleasure that I introduced to you my good friend, former Speaker Marco Rubio.
Today is a day of a lot of firsts. I've never felt like an ex-wife. But then it was a very kind introduction. With our loss, quite frankly, my loss, those months on those issues that we worked together on, but you did a phenomenal job on a very difficult issue, and which is property insurance, which, by the way, continues to trouble our state. And that's why I'm running for federal office. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. But thank you for that's a very kind introduction. It's great to see so many friends that were in the legislature with us as well, and to be here with you all. I apologize. We had to rent a car this morning at the airport. The trunk was not very big, so I did not bring my teleprompter. So I'm going to have to wing it. Just going to have to wing this one. But thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm honored you would be here. 170 some odd people and 22 candidates. Thank you very much for it. 190 and 23 candidates. And who knows, before the end of my speech, maybe 24 candidates. We'll see if you like what I say or not. But thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you. I'll follow any format you normally use. I like to take questions because that way I know I'm talking about what you want to hear. And I don't know how many of you use Twitter. I use Twitter, just took a picture of the crowd and put it up on Twitter, 190 people at my speech. My wife sent me back a little email saying there must be an open bar. Well, why would else anybody come here and read speeches? So far from home. So not only is it not an open bar, the iced tea is $2. So I responded back to her. And anyway, thank you. And I guess the fundamental question first is most of you have never met me before, so I'll be very brief and to the point. My parents were both born in Cuba. Contrary to the Castro government's propaganda, they were not against them, just against Cubans in general. They were not wealthy landowners who had their property taken away. They were not exploiters of the people. My dad was a security guard who literally worked at a 5 and dime and at night slept in the storeroom in the back. He took, back then Coca-Cola was shipped in wood boxes. And he put wood boxes together, put a mattress on top of it, that was his bed. My mom happened to be the cashier. Apparently unfazed by the fact that he had no house, they decided to get married, and they had my brother, who was 6 years old when they came to the United States in 1959. They came to New York for a year, figured out that Cubans and snow don't coexist, and moved to Miami, where they raised their children. I was born in 1971 in Miami, and my older brother had actually gone away to Vietnam and come back, and when I was born, he was 21 years old, and if he was here today, I introduced him as my dad, and he gets mad, so 21 years older than I am. Then they had my sister, and they had a 13-year hiatus, and they had me, and 11 months later, had my younger sister. So it was a big gap in between. What were they thinking? I don't know. But I'm glad they had me. How's that? And so in 1979, my dad, who was a bartender, except for a brief stint as an apartment manager, decided that things weren't going well in Miami Beach. The late 70s were a bad time in South Florida. We moved to Las Vegas, where we lived for 6 years, almost 7. He was a bartender there. My mom was a casino maid. He worked at a place called Sam's Town. I've never been to Vegas. It's off the strip. My mom worked at Imperial Palace, however, which you may know was at one time a very nice hotel. Now it's just a hotel. Best known for Legends and Concerts, which back then was Elvis, Marilyn Monroe impersonators. I saw that show like 4 times a year. It was our entertainment, and because there's not a lot to do for kids in Vegas at the time. We moved back in 85, where I graduated from public school in 89, went for a year on a football scholarship to Missouri. In January of that year, there was a massive snowstorm. Remember what I told you about Cubans in the snow? Covered the windows. And then I pulled out the Kansas City Chiefs media guide. And I was there on a football scholarship, and I couldn't find any 5'10", 170-pound wide receivers in the NFL, and decided that because, I thought I had a great career in the NFL, if it wasn't for the lack of size, speed, and talent. So I decided maybe I needed to go out and get a degree. So we came back to Florida. I got my degree at the University of Florida in 1993. It's been all downhill since then. And then went to the University of Miami School of Law in 96. Ran the Dole campaign in 96 in Miami, and then went to work as land use and zoning attorney. In 98, got elected to a very small city called West Miami. Got elected to the city council. The city council of West Miami is similar to a condominium association, but without the power. And I served there until 2000, where I was elected in a special election to the Florida legislature, where I served 8.5 years, 9 sessions. 2 years as majority whip, 2 years as majority leader, 2 years as speaker designate, where I was very proud to chair the property rights committee that was put together as a result of the Kelo decision on eminent domain. We came up with legislation that's become a model nationally, and then 2 years as speaker of the House. And that term ended in November of last year. And I had no intention of running for office in 2010. But then opportunities presented themselves, and I think our country entered what I believe was an extraordinary crossroads in our history. You hear discussion about that crossroads, and it's the reason why I'm running. People say, well, we're going to lose our country. You won't lose your country in the technical form. Let me be clear. This is not going to become Cuba or, Angola or something like that, China. That's not what we're going to lose. I think that's not what's threatened. Our republic is strong because our people will never tolerate the loss of the republic. What we are in danger of losing, however, is everything that makes America